what is going on? Nobody was trying to pull me aside and talk to me. And before I let it explode, I need to talk to these guys. I was just talking to Bennett. But I really couldn't concentrate and focus on talking with him because I'm a little bit taken aback. I'm sitting here, I had made a toast, and then there was the longest awkward silence. And I just sat here and was embarrassed and had to almost does anybody want to spend time with me?
Hey, can I speak for the group?
You don't need to speak for the group. You need to speak for yourself. If you guys all want to hang out with each other, you can do that, and I can go home and go to bed. At the end of the day, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
And I want my man to show me you care.
At the end of the day, nobody speaks for me. You can speak for the group if you like to, but you can speak for the group and everybody but Riley, because I speak for myself. I may have a completely different opinion from you.
And I was trying to I was gonna speak for me.
You just said you speak for the group. I'm just letting it be known, because every time you say we all, or when I do something, we all, I'm just trying to get it clear, that's all. If I messed up, I can tell Claire, like a man, like men do, that I messed up. There is no we, there is no us. I want to get that across to you.
That's me.
There is no me and you.
We're cool. We were cool. Man, Riley, I have one thing for you. Guys, I don't think I can do. This is hard. This is just hard.
Hey, how we doing tonight, CCV students? You guys already know we're talking about dating tonight. I gotta ask a shameless question here at the top. Raise your hand if you've seen The Bachelor or The Bachelorette before. Yeah, I think most of us have. I've seen it before, but I wouldn't say I'm a Bachelor fan or a Bachelorette fan. I'm more of a Monday Night Football guy. There we go. But years ago, I did watch one season of The Bachelor. You guys want to hear my consensus on it? When it comes to the way that people date on The Bachelor, the format of the dating, the one-on-one, the group dates, it's terrible. It's terrible. And before you Bachelor fans start throwing rocks at me or something, let me explain myself. For a moment, just imagine you're a contestant on the show. You're stripped away from your family or friends, and you're sitting down on a couch. You're pouring your heart out to somebody that you're thinking about maybe getting engaged to 6 weeks from now. You're connecting. You're starting to believe in this thing man, maybe they are the one for me. Maybe I am falling in love. Maybe you share a kiss, and someone walks over to you, and they tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, it's my turn. You walk 20 feet away, you sit down with 20 other people that you're living with, but you're also competing with to marry this person, and you watch that person that just tapped you have the same conversation and maybe share a kiss with the person that you're thinking of getting married to. I'm sorry, but that's just not a good way to date, and I think we'd all agree. But when it comes to The Bachelor, there actually is one thing that I agree with The Bachelor on. There's one thing they get right, and it's this sentence right here. The goal of a dating relationship ends in a marriage. If you've seen the show before, at the end of every season, there's this thing called a ring ceremony or a proposal. We all dream of this day, especially you girls. You probably have this fantasy of this time in your life where the dude who's going to ask you to marry you someday gets down on a knee and he just asks you to marry him. We all dream of this, don't we? Yes, right? For me, that day was on July 19th, 2012. I was in Vancouver, Canada. I was playing baseball up there for an entire season. I hadn't seen my high school sweetheart in 5 months. Long-distance relationship, and what she had no clue about during those 5 months that I was off playing in Vancouver was I was actually planning this special time when she came and visited me. So her and my parents, they flew up to Vancouver, and the plan was this. I was going to rent a boat. I was going to take her out around Vancouver, this place called Stanley Park. And the plan was, when I was at a certain spot in the bay, I would get this random text message from my teammates who were on the beach with these huge poster boards that spelled out, "Will you marry me?" And I'm talking huge. These things would have started here and gone to the completely other side of the stage. And when I got to a certain point in the bay, I'd get this random text message from them that said, "Hey, Matt, we're on the beach. Aren't you on a boat right now?" And I'd look at it, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, my teammates are on the beach, babe. Since I'm driving the boat, I can't look through those binoculars that are right next to your seat, so will you look for them?" And so she did. And when she looked through those binoculars, this is what she sees right here. That's right. This proves the point that at the end of a dating relationship, we all want this moment that's a marriage. Here's a picture of us that day. But here's where we're going tonight. As we wrap up this series, How to Relationship, a series where we've been talking about how we can be Christ-centered difference makers and how we can have relationships where others see Jesus by the way that we have relationships. Tonight, we're going to talk about how we can date well so that people can see Jesus in our relationships. And before we get into tonight, I am well aware that some of us in the room, we are not even close to thinking about dating. Some of us in the room, we're not even allowed to date because our parents haven't given us the okay. And if that's you, we can still learn a ton. But here's where we're going tonight. We're going to learn 3 steps of how to date well. And the first step is this. The first thing we have to do is we have to look in. We have to look into our own lives, and we have to ask ourselves the question, is Jesus first in my life? This is a priority question. What we have to do is we have to evaluate where Jesus falls before we even begin thinking about dating. When I was in high school, this was my list right here. So often I'd focus on the sport that I was playing or my school, making sure I get good grades. Next, I'd focus on my friends. From there, I'd go family. And then if there was ever time, maybe I'd pray or come to church or read my Bible. Then Jesus would enter into the picture. You see, I think right now, many of us in the room would say that our list kind of looks something like this. And before we even begin to think about dating, we have to evaluate where Jesus falls on our list. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 10 seconds in silence and just think about where Jesus might fall on your list. 10 seconds. That was great. You guys were silent. Check out what Matthew 6:33 says. It says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and these things will be added to you." What does that mean? We got to put the context of what's going on here. Is Jesus is preaching a sermon called the Sermon on the Mount, one of the most famous sermons he preaches. He's preaching to thousands of people. And as he's preaching to them, these people are saying what about my clothes? What about the food I eat? What about where am I going to get water? And what Jesus tells them in this verse is he said, no. Don't worry about all that other stuff. Focus on me. Focus on the kingdom. Because once Jesus is at the top priority in our life, what he's saying is that everything else falls into order. And when we look in and we evaluate where Jesus is, we know we can take the next step in dating when our list begins to look like this. Let me get something really clear here. It'd be really easy for you to sit there and hear that, oh, Jesus is just another thing in my life. He's a category. Absolutely not. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that once Jesus is the top priority in our life, he can have an impact and he can lead us in every other area. He's not just a piece of the list. He is the top priority on the list. So, if we can get Jesus at the top of our list, we have completed step 1 and we can head to step 2, but let's be honest. How many of us know somebody who maybe they were following Jesus, they get into a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and all of a sudden their list looks like this. The boyfriend or girlfriend goes straight to the top. I see some dudes in the back nudging their buddy. Dude, that's you. We all know people who get into a relationship, and as soon as they do that, everything gets out of whack, and sooner or later, Jesus is at the bottom. We've experienced that. That's part of being new to dating. Let me give you an example of what your list might look like at the beginning of a dating relationship. Jesus stays at the top. Notice this. Where's that new relationship fall? It's at the bottom. Why would we take a brand new relationship that we don't know is going to work out and throw it at the top of our priority list? No. It belongs at the bottom, and as it grows, we can figure that out. But what is most important is where Jesus falls on that list. So, that's step one. And to be completely honest with you, we could stop the message right now, we could head to group time, and we could have a ton of stuff to talk about. Because a lot of us where we sit right now, we got some work to do. Step two. After we look in, we can look out, and we can ask ourselves the question, what am I looking for? Let me be honest with you guys. We are not good at this. Guys or girls. I actually did some bachelor research this past week. And guys, we are terrible at this. Over 25 seasons of The Bachelor, guess how many of the relationships that have been established in The Bachelor are still together today? 2. Guys, when it comes to us choosing who we want to be with, we are so bad, we can't even get 10%. We're sitting at 8%. Now, girls, you guys are sitting over here, you're feeling like you're on the high horse. You're like, yeah, I should be the one that should pick this. I'm the better one. Let's talk about The Bachelorette now. Out of the 18 seasons of The Bachelorette, how many of those relationships do you think are together still? 5. Oh, girls, yeah, I've never seen someone clap over 28%. Good job. But hey, when it comes to what we are looking for, if we do not have a plan, we will not be successful. Period. So, here's what we got to do. We have to have a game plan. When we walk out of here tonight, there's going to be tables that you can pick one of these up. If you were a part of this series 2 years ago, we talked about this thing called a dating game plan. And here's what that is. When it comes to what we're looking for, we have to know what we're looking for in someone's character, what they're centered on. We got to know what we're looking for in our boundaries, both physical and time boundaries. And we got to know what we're looking for when it comes to accountability. I actually have, this is my wife's from when she was in high school. And she had 2 things that her husband had to have someday. Can I share that with you guys? All right. Number 1, he has to have really hairy arms. Check. Number 2, he has to be bald before he's 30 years old. She got it right. She got it right. CCB students, when we look out and we look for what it is in somebody that we want to be with, we have to have a game plan that focuses on what their character looks like. We have to have a game plan on when we get into that relationship, what those boundaries look like, physical, time, and we got to have a plan for what our accountability is going to look like. We talked about that last week. But I want to get real for a minute. I want to get real. Because I know right now, there's people in the room, as I've been talking about these 2 steps, there's people in the room that are in the middle of a relationship right now, and you're realizing that Jesus isn't at the top of your priority list, or your boyfriend or girlfriend's. There's people in the room right now that's realizing that they entered into this relationship with no game plan at all. Let's get real. That's in the room right now. I need you to hear this right now. There's a real possibility that as you hear this, as you hear somebody on stage tell you how you should date, you're probably feeling a little convicted or challenged. When I was in high school, I remember coming to church feeling convicted or challenged about a certain area, and the first thing that I would think about is, this isn't very comfortable. Part of you probably wants to run and never come back. But if that's you in the room right now, I need you to hear this. This church is for you. This entire place, your coach, myself, and especially Jesus is for you. And even though you might be in a relationship right now, maybe you feel uncomfortable about a situation that you're in. Maybe the relationship that you're in right now has actually gone way past what you thought it would be. Maybe it's the boundaries that were in place or not in place are completely gone. The relationship has turned sexual and you never intended it for it to do that. But right now I need you to know this. Step 3 is where you need to focus tonight. Step 3 in the dating on how we date well is this. We have to look for a mentor to speak into the relationship. This is so important. I can't stress it enough. Because here's what we do. Here's what we do when it comes to relationships. We tend to stand over here and we tend to isolate ourselves. On The Bachelor, the contestants and the Bachelor and the Bachelorette, they are completely stripped away from their family, their friends, their pastors. Everything in their world is gone because they're not allowed to communicate what's going on in their life. And many of us, as we sit in a dating relationship right now, we feel like we're a little bit isolated. Here's what we need to do. Right now, I'm looking out at about 150 coaches that would be so honored. They'd be so pumped if you came to them and said, hey, I could use a little advice in my relationship. Man, this relationship that I thought I knew about, that I wanted to make the decisions in, man, it's not going really well. Step 3 is we have to have a mentor that speaks into our relationship. Check out what Ecclesiastes 4:12 says. It says, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. What does that mean? King Solomon was the most wise dude on the face of the earth. And before this verse, he's talking about these relationships that we get in. And he's talking about how 1 is good, 2 is better, but 3 is not easily broken. It's scientifically proven that a cord of 3 strands, it's a rope, one you do tug of war with, is the strongest type of rope that you can make. Not 2, not 4 strands, not 18 strands, but 3 is the strongest form of a rope that you can make. And here's what King Solomon's telling us about relationships. He's saying if you got a boyfriend and a girlfriend, you have to have a mentor to make that relationship strong. And so many of us, where we sit right now in our relationship, we are just relying on ourselves and our boyfriend or girlfriend to just figure it out. And if we're honest, that relationship isn't very strong right now. So, invite a mentor to speak into the relationship. Step 1, we got to look in. Is Jesus the first priority in my life? Tonight, some of us need to answer that question. Step 2, we got to look out. We got to establish a game plan that tells us exactly what we're looking for. Step 3, we got to have a mentor. Here's why all this matters. Here's why. Someday, you're going to have a moment in your life where you look across and you have to make a decision on this person that's either asking you to spend the rest of your life with them, or you're asking somebody else to spend the rest of their life with you. You're going to have to decide if that's the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, pointing others to Jesus with. CCV students, you guys can do this. Christ-centered difference makers are different, which means they date different. The world around us is going to tell us every single reason why we shouldn't date this way. But Christ-centered difference do. Christ-centered difference makers do. So, as we head off to group tonight, here's my challenge for you. Pick a step and apply it to your life. Do you need to look in and establish where Jesus falls in your life? Do you need to look out, make a game plan? Or do you need to look for a mentor to come into your relationship? Father, I thank you for every student in this room. I pray for the relationships that are going on right now, Lord. Father, I pray for the conversations that need to be had. I pray for the coaches as they head into conversation to help Christ-centered difference makers have a relationship that points others to you, Lord. Father, you are so good to us. We thank you for your son, Jesus, and the example that he sets every single day. We love you, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.